Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time we're diving into a story that's sending shockwaves all the way from Mumbai, and honestly has us wondering just how deep this rabbit hole really goes.
A high-profile assassination, whispers of organized crime, political maneuvering, and a city bracing for a crucial election.
Yeah, we're talking about the assassination of Baba Siddique, a man who seemingly had a hand in everything Mumbai.
And whose death has left many wondering who's really in control.
Siddique was gunned down near his son's office, and right from the headlines, you can tell this wasn't some random act of violence.
Not at all. This was a calculated hit, a public execution on one of the most important holidays in India, Dussehra.
It's like someone wanted to send a message.
Oh, absolutely. This was a display of power, a warning. And to fully grasp its significance, we need to understand who Baba Siddique was.
Right, because he wasn't just some politician. This is a three-time MLA, someone who understood the heartbeat of Mumbai better than most.
For almost 5 decades, Siddique was a stalwart in the Indian National Congress, one of India's major political parties. Then, just this past February, he makes a seismic shift, joins the Nationalist Congress Party, the NCP.
The NCP, and this was right before a major election, right?
Precisely. Imagine switching teams after 48 years, right before a big game. It sent shockwaves through the political landscape. But Siddique's influence, it extended far beyond the halls of government.
He was known for these lavish parties, rubbing shoulders with Bollywood's elite. We're talking A-list actors, top directors, all flocking to his events. It's almost like he moved in this entirely different world.
He understood the power of connections, the currency of influence in a city like Mumbai. So his assassination, it doesn't just leave a void in the Maharashtra Legislative Assembly, it creates ripples across the city's social and political fabric. This was a man who knew everyone, and whose absence will be felt by many, in ways we're only just beginning to understand.
It really is amazing, thinking about these different layers of influence and power. You've got this formal political scene, and then there are these other dynamics at play, like you said. But let's talk about the assassination itself, because that's what brought us here. It happened on Dussehra.
A major holiday, right?
Huge! A day when people celebrate the victory of good over evil. And in the middle of it all, this very public execution. What does that say?
It says this wasn't random, it was a statement. Imagine carrying out a hit like that on that specific day. It's deliberate, it's meant to show everyone who's in charge. It's a power move.
And when we talk about the details, it seems less like a power move and more like a carefully orchestrated military operation. I mean,
Yeah.
6 shots fired, multiple hitting Baba Siddique. This was a hit planned to make sure he didn't get back up.
Exactly. And remember, he had what's called Y-level security. You don't just
Yeah.
waltz past that kind of protection. Someone wanted him dead, and they had the resources to make it happen.
So now you've got these calls for resignations, accusations being thrown around that the government is somehow involved. What's the feeling on the ground?
Well, Sharad Pawar, the head of the NCP, the party Siddique had just joined, he came out swinging. He basically said if the government can't even protect someone with this level of security, then they've failed and need to step down. It's really about who can be trusted.
There's a real sense of unease then.
Of course, especially with elections right around the corner.
Because this whole thing shines a light on this question. How safe is Mumbai, really?
Exactly. And which politician is going to use that fear to their advantage? It's a lot more complicated than it first appears.
And then there's the whole other layer to this, the suspects. 2 caught, 1 still out there somewhere. What do we know about the 2 in custody?
Well, what's interesting is they're not from Mumbai. One's from Uttar Pradesh, the other Haryana.
Different states entirely. So we're not just talking about local rivalries here, are we?
No, not at all. This points to something bigger, organized maybe, bringing in muscle from other states. It suggests a reach that goes beyond Mumbai. This could be the tip of the iceberg.
So we've got a high-stakes political assassination, possible organized crime links, and an election looming over everything. It's like something out of a movie, but it's all very real.
It is. And it's a stark reminder that beneath the surface of any major city, there are these hidden power struggles happening, usually out of sight, until something like this brings them into the light.
So where do we even begin to unpack all of this?
Well, we start with the obvious question. Who benefits? Who was Baba Siddique standing in the way of? Was this about silencing him, or was he just a pawn in a much bigger game?
Because we still have that unanswered question, right? The motive. Why go through all this trouble? It had to be about more than just political ambition.
Right, and that's where those suspects in custody, their backgrounds, their connections, that's where the real story might be.
So we look at their potential motives, any links to organized crime.
Exactly. Were they hired muscle, following orders,
Hmm.
or were they driven by something more personal? That's what investigators need to find out. Because if their loyalties lie outside Mumbai, this could have ripple effects far beyond what we can even imagine right now.
And of course, we can't forget about those elections. How do you think this is going to impact the way people vote?
Well, it's bound to have an influence.
Hmm.
People get scared, they want stability, they'll turn to whoever promises them that, whoever can convince them that they can fix it.
It's all about who can control the narrative now.
Exactly. It'll be a game of who can appear the strongest, the most capable in the face of all this uncertainty.
So for our listeners, because this is far from over, what should we be paying attention to as this unfolds?
Watch the suspects. Any connections they have, any whispers of who might have given the orders. Pay attention to how the different political parties try to use this. Who's going to exploit this tragedy for votes? It's cynical, but it's the reality. And don't let this story slip away. Just because it happened in Mumbai doesn't mean it stays there. The consequences of this could be far-reaching.
We'll definitely be keeping our eyes peeled. And for everyone listening, we'll be back soon to dive into another story you might not find anywhere else. Until then, stay curious.